Police, let me see your hands. What I do?
Turn around and place your hands on the wall.
Against the wall now.
Michael Gardner, you're under
I
arrest.
didn't do anything.
Hands above your head. Left hand.
Look, you got the wrong guy, whatever it is.
It's rape, Mr. Gardner.
What? You okay?
Yeah.
You just made a big mistake.
Oh my God, what are you doing to him?
This police.
He's my husband.
Call Aaron Russ. She's a lawyer in my book.
Why are you arresting him?
Your husband raped 4 women. Your dinner's here. It's on NYPD.
City, sexually based offenses are considered especially heinous. These are their stories.
Hey guys, welcome to Munch My Benson. My name is Adam. I am coming from the Upper East Side of Manhattan. My neighborhood's kind of going off tonight, so I apologize if there's some background noise. There was a near fist fight between some garbage collectors and some cabbies outside my window a few minutes ago. The fucking trash truck had their horn on for a solid 10 fucking minutes at 9:45, on I guess it's a Saturday night, whatever. I'm old. But my kid's fucking asleep and it pissed me off. Also, this cabbie could get a chai at the, there's this chai place that all the South Asian cab drivers go to. And there's this constant parade of cabs double parking to go get tea from this spot. I've had their food. It's fine, but not great, but I've never tried their tea yet. So I guess I have to hit that up. How you doing up there, Josh?
I'm great, I guess.
Yeah? You seem not so sure about that.
Oh, whatever. I did. Jesus Christ, just a second. Jack, are you almost done? All I'm hearing is fucking noise from you.
For the listeners, the Dugans are having a little marital strife at the moment.
No, she just decided that now is when she needs to make noise. Love you. So the notes for this, Jesus Christ, every time I start talking, she starts coughing. The notes for this episode, guest star notes, are fucking absurd.
Yeah.
I have 3.5 pages of notes.
Some serious guest bloat going on in this one.
One entire page, more than a page, dedicated to Frederick Aaron Savage.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just when I thought I was done with everything. The last one I did a serious dive on turned up a whole bunch of weird shit, and honestly, it's someone who you can't even see their fucking face on screen. They're
Great.
only in profile for a second, and then it's like, what the fuck? Anyway, so yeah, this took me to some weird places, and then my episode notes are oddly kind of sparse, but
yeah,
whatever.
It's just an interest. So, I mean, I guess we can kind of get into this one quickly.
Because we're going to have a lot to talk about, I feel
We're going to have a lot to talk about. I'm trying to think of, I watched Big today.
Okay.
We were talking about Tom Hanks recently, and somehow my wife put Big on, and the kids seem to enjoy it. But that is the movie where everything turned for Tom Hanks, because you can tell that he's still the guy he used to be. He's still funny, Tom Hanks, but definitely the script beats it out of him by the end. So the first three acts
a harbinger for the fun-loving career that he had.
Oh yeah, no, exactly, because it's fun-loving. You up through the scene where they're doing the piano, doing chopsticks on the piano. Great scene, love it.
Well, it's also heavily referenced in the best show ever, Patriot.
Yeah, I mean, it's an iconic scene, right? And it's a lot of fun, and everything where Tom Hanks is playing with toys at his office. Great content, hilarious stuff. But then the romance, it's rough, man. And Tom Hanks wanting to go home, He doesn't want to stay 30 his whole life because he's an idiot kid. But yeah, that's about all I've watched in the immediate past that I can remember, besides this episode of SVU, which I, of course, watched 2 times over the last 2 days.
Yeah.
And this is one of the ones that you're going to remember if you've seen it in the past, because it is a classic Stuntcast episode.
Sure.
And
yeah, just do it.
I guess I'm just going to jump right in. So, of course, we are watching an episode of SVU. It is Season 4, Episode 22. It is called Futility. I guess before I do the recap, Josh, what are you drinking?
Oh, just going to the old mainstay of hams in my
Nice.
my Benson koozie.
Yeah, that's a delicious beer right there. I'm drinking a Founders Centennial IPA, which is pretty high ABV beer from them, but it's a good one. I can get a 15-pack, so...
They have that in the 15-pack too?
Yeah, at least around here they're selling that.
Right on.
And,
I guess I must have seen that somewhere. It just didn't register.
Yeah, if I can save, 20% of trips to the grocery store to haul home another big case of beers, I'm going to do that. So it works out. But yeah, let's jump right in. It's poker night at the Gardner's house. Their taste in card games is as basic as their taste in assembled friends, and one is left wondering what style of bland-ass food they ordered for the night's festivities. We'll never know because their food delivery got intercepted by SVU as part of a sting operation to arrest Michael Gardner, a.k.a. grown-up Kevin Arnold from the Wonder Years. Elliot, Finn, and Benson inform him that he's under arrest for rape, but before they can slap the steel on his wrists, he turns and hits Olivia with a right cross to her chin. When his wife, Kimberly, arrives to try to figure out why her husband has just been thrown face first into a concrete wall, they tell her that her husband is under arrest for raping 4 women, but NYP did pick up the tab for her dinner, so at least she has that going for her. When we come back from the credits, Michael is in interrogation, apologizing for assaulting a police officer. His lawyer, Aaron Russ, doesn't think the SVUs have a case since the key evidence of Gardner's guilt seems to be one thumbprint left at the scene of one of the 4 rapes. We do learn his fairly odd and specific MO. He chokes his victims out, then slashes them across the breast while raping them. The last victim, Carrie Hutt, remained conscious during the attack and was able to provide a description matching Michael. Gardner was probably doing pretty well at poker night since he maintains a steely poker face as he denies any knowledge of any of the rapes. Benson goes to collect Carrie for the lineup and finds her talking to rape crisis counselor Bethany Taylor. Carrie is pretty freaked out at the prospect of either seeing her attacker again or making the wrong ID and letting her attacker go free, so Liv has to calm her down before she gets the details of the attack. Carrie was choked from behind and passed out. She woke up with him on top of her and got a very good look at his face before he left the scene in a white SUV. She finally agrees to do the lineup as long as Bethany can come along for support. As Liv takes Bethany aside to impress upon her how important this ID is, Finn walks Michael Gardner into the lineup room and he stares them both down as he's going inside. Moments later, Bethany walks Carrie into the lineup booth where Benson, Cabot, and Aaron Russ are waiting for them. She wastes little time in picking out Gardner from the group, and Russ informs Cabot that this case is extremely thin if it's only based on this single eyewitness. Benson and Taylor speak to Carrie and the other 3 victims. They explain how Gardner will most likely post bail, and since he lives near all of them, there's a likelihood they will see him again in the neighborhood. Benson also tells them that while they are welcome to file for an order of protection against Michael, that means giving him their addresses. In the end, though, they all do file for the order, and Gardner makes bail. Almost immediately, Carrie calls Benson, telling her that she ran into Gardner at her local coffee shop. While it seems like he's stalking Carrie, Cabot dismisses the idea that a judge will lock him up for violating the order since he was inside before Carrie was. Wong thinks Gardner is too meticulous to randomly run into one of his former victims and that he's likely getting off on re-victimizing Carrie. Liv and Elliot get an earful from one of the other victims, Karen, when they tell her to be on the lookout for Michael. As she slams the door in their ineffectual faces, they spot Gardner crouching down behind a dope early mid-90s blue Volvo 940 sedan with a killer moonroof and reasonably minor front-end damage. He claims he was just walking his dog, an adorable and very, very young golden retriever puppy, but they slap the cuffs on him anyways and take him and the sweet puppy in. At his hearing for violating the protection order, Gardner informs Judge Cohen that he's fired Aaron Russ and will be representing himself. Cabot tells the judge that Gardner is doing this to continue victimizing the women he's attacked. Of course, the judge can't stop him. He can merely advise against it. And if there's one thing I've learned from watching literally hundreds of hours of Law & Order franchise episodes, it's that there's no lawyer as conniving or clever as a sociopathic criminal representing himself. This means that Gardner will be able to directly question his victims, so it's probably a ruse to maintain his power over them. He successfully files a motion to sever the cases and dismiss the charges against him for victims 1 through 3. Then Carrie tells Benson that she is unwilling and unable to face Gardner's questions in court. Benson pleads with her to reconsider, and eventually she does. Carrie is forced to recount every lurid detail of her attack to Gardner. Then he starts a line of questions about counselor Bethany Taylor. He establishes that Taylor was with Carrie before the lineup. Later, when questioning Benson, he notes that he saw her talking with Taylor as Finn was leading him into the lineup room, and that Taylor had time to speak privately with Carrie after she'd seen Gardner, but before Carrie identified him. Cabot is seriously pissed that the ID might be tainted and that she's been thoroughly out-lawyered by Wayne Arnold's dipshit younger brother. Bethany is served with papers, but her communications with Carrie are privileged. Judge Preston decides that she will question Taylor privately and determine whether or not there's anything invalid in Gardner's accusations. Taylor refuses to say anything at all to the judge on the grounds that even speaking privately in the judge's chambers would erode her client's trust in her, so Preston has Benson arrest her for contempt of court. Cabot and Benson hatch an end-around scheme to convince Carrie to waive Bethany's counselor privilege. Olivia listens to Carrie run down the complete disaster that her life has become since the attack. She listens to Carrie say that she talks to Bethany openly about this stuff because she knows it will remain private. She nods, and then she asks her to allow Bethany to tell all of these awful details to Judge Preston. Bethany is pissed that Carrie's trauma is being used by SVU to make the case that they've heretofore been completely unable to make. Preston rules that Taylor's testimony is not germane to the case. Gardner freaks out, and Bethany's clients are abandoning her in droves once news of her testimony gets out. In order to assuage her guilt about re-victimizing Carrie and ruining a great rape counselor's career, Benson seeks out Stabler, who is shirking his familiar duties as usual. He tells her that it's okay that she's kind of fucked up a fairly large number of people's lives because she cares. The next day at trial, Gardner is missing. They put his mugshot up everywhere and put everyone on high alert, but it's too late. He's struck again, and this time his victim is dead. His MO has evolved. In addition to killing this Vic, he also wore latex gloves to avoid leaving any fingerprints. He did, however, bite his victim's forearm deep enough to leave an imprint even after he'd cut that piece of skin off. The impression is a match to Gardner, and now they just need to find him. Attorney Aaron Russ claims to have no idea of Gardner's whereabouts. Then a tip comes in that he'd cashed a check for $5,000 of his wife's money at a check cashing place in the Bronx. Teru Morales is able to pull some magical shit from the check cashing place's low-res camera. Gardner can be seen getting into the passenger side of a white Lexus SUV matching the description of the one Carrie saw after her attack. From a single dark pixel, Morales is able to see that the driver of the car is a woman with shorter, lighter hair than Mrs. Gardner. A review of Michael's LUDs reveals that the mystery woman had to have been none other than Aaron Russ, who is the registered owner of a white 1999 Lexus SUV. Benson and Stabler find the car with the trunk open. They enter her apartment to find Aaron covered in Gardner's blood after she'd stabbed him in the back with the murder weapon he'd used to kill the last victim. Aaron kind of admits to not killing him in self-defense. Benson bends the rules and lets Carrie see the lifeless corpse of her tormentor. And we are left with I don't think Michael and his lawyer lover are going to make up and make out in a rainstorm at the end of this saga, Dick Wolf.
Yep, definitely not gonna.
The fun before we jump into the guest stars, the one thing I would point out is that it's kind of similar to the Andrew McCarthy episode in that my memory of this episode is kind of different than my experience watching it for the show. Like, I kind of remembered, Kevin Arnold being in it a lot more than he actually was.
Yeah, he's not in it that much.
I was kind of disappointed that, we only get to see him lose his shit once and for a brief amount of time.
Well, twice.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess
when he's arrested and then
when he punches Benson, but then especially in court when he when he
stands up and freaks out about it not being fair. Yeah,
exactly. But still, I mean, a classic, really fun stunt casting episode.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this is what you hope for when you see.
Yeah, when
it's a star of one of the 80s sitcoms that you grew up watching, be it him or Michael Gross.
Yeah, the thing about this show is that, like the Wonder Years I'm talking about, is that there's no show like the Wonder Years now. There's no show where kind of everybody...
Well, there is. It's called the Wonder Years.
But there's no show that has the same kind of, the level of, what would I call it? The penetration throughout all layers of society, where kind of everybody is exposed to this show, and if they're not watching it, they definitely know about it, and they know who everybody in it is.
Sure, yeah.
There's basically no show like that anymore.
Well, and the weird thing is, it didn't have the sort of the post first run life and syndication that so many other sitcoms did.
Yeah.
Probably because it's, like a dramedy, really. It's a half-hour dramedy, essentially. It's sure they're comedic moments, but it's also like... Yeah,
it's much more about,
it's much more serious.
A coming of age saga, and there's like serious shit, like Winnie Cooper's brother dies in the pilot.
That's the pilot.
And so it's like...
the finale? Jesus Christ, the finale is such a fucking bummer.
I mean, it's the finale is like, oh man, it's heart wrenching, and then it kind of ends on a
well, it ends on the my dad fucking croaked, and it really.
But it doesn't it end on they're like banging or they're like preparing to bang in the. Or is there a button after that?
It does that, but then the fucking button on the whole thing is like. They agree to whatever, and he's talking over them at the 4th of July parade, I believe. Mm-hmm. So he's talking over them, like holding hands, walking to the parade, and the VO is him, telling how everything went over this image, and it's like we agreed that we'd always be there for each other, and I met her at the airport with my wife and kids when she came back from Paris, and my fucking dad died, but we made up at least because he makes up with his dad right here. So it's. The whole like really the end of the episode is just like how all of these people how all of these people's lives changed and his dad died. So you're just like, oh shit, like it got real, and they didn't get together, or they didn't stay together, and so there's.
And Winnie Cooper moved off to Canada to star in hundreds of Lifetime movie.
No, not Lifetime.
Movies. Oh, Hallmark. She's Hallmark,
because she was talent at least one of the Hallmark award shows that I did.
Oh, nice. Did you have any interactions with Danica McKellar? No.
Lacey Chabert, yes.
Danica nice. McKellar, no. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You got to meet all of the starlets.
All of the stars. Okay, so I guess we should get into guest stars since we basically are already talking about Fred Savage. Fred Savage was born in Chicago in 1976 to Joanne and Louis Savage, the latter an industrial real estate broker and consultant. His grandparents were Jewish immigrants from Eastern Europe, and he was raised as a Reformed Jew. His parents moved the family from Glencoe, Illinois to California in the early 80s, where he went to Brentwood School in Brentwood, which is on the west side if you don't know LA geography.
Most people might know Brentwood from the O.J. Simpson trial.
Yeah, but even then they may not know where in LA that is, but it's just west of the 405.
Nice.
Which probably doesn't mean anything to anyone either. But it's basically, most of it lies just west of the 405, right south of Santa Monica Mountains.
Yeah.
He started acting at age 9, first landing a role in Morning Star, Evening Star, a short-lived hour-long where kids from a burned-down orphanage move into a retirement facility that has space for them.
From the creator of the Waltons, old and young living together.
Aren't we lucky?
Morning Star, Evening Star.
I don't want to be here.
March 25th.
I looked into that show, seemed pretty fucking weird.
Yeah. Did you watch any episodes?
God, no. I don't it doesn't even have a page on Wikipedia, so I can't imagine it's available anywhere. If it is, I don't care to watch it, but he went from Morning Star, Evening Star to The Boy Who Could Fly, playing the precocious little brother who put piss in his squirt gun, and guest spots on The Twilight Zone and Crime Story before landing the role that he's intergenerationally best known for, the grandson to whom Peter Falk is reading in The Princess Bride.
Yep.
This blew him up, landing him a co-starring role in the second-wave body swap family comedy Vice Versa, opposite Judge Reinhold, who said of this movie that it started the end of his career.
I mean, there was a moment for body swap films.
Because it was
around
like Father Like Son was before this. Then
Yeah,
there was Vice Versa and 18 again. 18 again is fucking brutal, by the way. Try watching that.
I know.
Oh, God. Charlie Schlatter acting like George Burns is one of the hardest things to watch that I've ever sat through. So after Vice Versa, he landed probably the most important role of his career, Kevin Arnold, in the Emmy-winning Boomer Nostalgia Fest and coming-of-age single-camera dramedy The Wonder Years, in which he starred from 1988, where its pilot aired after the fucking Super Bowl, to 1993. This role garnered him a pair of Golden Globe nominations and a pair of Emmy nominations for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Comedy Series, first getting these nominations at the age of 13, the youngest actor ever to receive a nomination for lead actor or actress, and the only younger Emmy nominee in any primetime Emmy acting category was Keisha Knight Pulliam for The Cosby Show right around this time, who was nominated at the age of 6.
Wow.
Between shooting seasons on The Wonder Years, he starred opposite Howie Mandel and his little brother Ben Savage in Little Monsters, and opposite Jenny Lewis, Beau Bridges, and Christian Slater in The Wizard.
Yeah,
The Wizard was, of course, the movie that launched Super Mario Bros. 3 and heavily featured the just-launched Power Glove.
Yeah, which was not nearly as cool in real life as it was in that movie.
No, and also they never made it left-handed, but in the promo stuff for it, he was wearing a left-handed Power Glove. So,
weird.
Yeah. After The Wonder Years wrapped, he went to Stanford, getting a degree in English. He did take a year off while at Stanford to do the workplace multicam sitcom Working, where he also directed his first episode of television. From there, he began directing, first on a lot of multicam teen shows like Even Stevens, Boy Meets World, naturally, since his brother was on it, That's So Raven, and Hannah Montana, before pivoting to more adult fare like 18 episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, 9 episodes of Party Down, which is basically half the series, 21 episodes of Two Broke Girls, 14 episodes of Modern Family, and 4 eps of the new racially realigned version of The Wonder Years, which I guess can't be a nostalgia show since the creators were not alive when it is set, which is in Alabama in the late 60s.
Nice.
He came back to acting in 2015 after kind of like 10 years where he basically wasn't doing it. He'd maybe show up to guest star in an episode or something. But he came back to acting to co-star in the insanely funny legal comedy The Grinder with Rob Lowe, who is playing a former TV attorney who comes home and starts practicing with his father and brother, who are actual lawyers in Boise. So
nice.
He then
is that why Boise's hot these days? I mean,
yeah,
everybody's
that's
moving
surely
to Boise,
why
right?
it's so hot. He then co-starred in the ensemble comedy Friends from College on Netflix and reprised the role of the grandson from The Princess Bride in the PG-13 cut of Deadpool 2. There was also a harassment lawsuit filed against Savage by a set costumer on The Grinder. It was settled out of court, so it was dismissed. The suit alleged that he was generally verbally abusive to her and blew up at her after she brushed dandruff off his tuxedo before a shot, which very much would have been her job as said costumer.
Yeah.
In flipping out on her, he allegedly struck her 3 times in the arm. She also alleged that he had a rep for intimidating and tormenting female crew members. though I don't know that there was substantiated corroboration of that claim, though Fox did the investigation of this and, probably would have at least had motivation to try to make their star not look culpable.
Of course, yeah.
But that's me editorializing.
I mean, of course, it's very hard to know when they settle out of court, right? Because because you can understand that there's financial incentives both ways, right? To make
Absolutely.
it to either sweep it under the rug or make it look as bad as possible.
Sure.
But yeah, it's there's definitely an allegation.
Next up, we've got Mindy Christ, who's playing Carrie Hewitt. She was born in Detroit, grew up in Marin County, California. Graduated from UCLA School of Theater and Film. She has tons of smaller roles, like more than 50 credits, but this is clearly the time where she would have broken out with a better stroke of luck. Right before this, she was third billed in the Tim Matheson journalism drama Breaking News that aired for a season on Bravo back in 2002. That was sort of like... some reviewer had likened it to like a journalism take on the West Wing, sort of. But not, I don't know anything about it.
But before Network or whatever it was called, not Network, whatever
before Sorkin actually did it. Yeah, because this is around the time that Matheson's been on the West Wing. So
yeah.
Then she did this, and then she had a 4-episode arc on 6 Feet Under as Dana.
Yeah.
After that, she basically got cut down to 1-episode guest star roles. She is married to Josh Stamberg, who was you haven't seen this, but listeners probably have. He was the shithead judge that Carisi butted heads with and went after in season 22. So this was right after Christmas break last year.
Nice.
He's a guy, you've seen him in a ton of shit. They have 2 kids together.
Nice.
Moving down the line, we've got Tyra Farrell. She is playing Bethany Taylor. She was born in Houston, moved to New York after high school, and started working on stage on Broadway before making her way onto the screen, landing in the main cast of network high school sitcom The Bronx Zoo, featuring Ed Asner, Jerry Levine, Michael T. Williamson, and Catherine Harold.
Oh, what a weird cast.
It's a really weird cast. Catherine Harold, of course, matters only to Adam and I, but I figured he'd care because she was Rockford's blind girlfriend.
Yeah. In the weirdest episode of the Rockford Files.
And then they end up getting together in the movies too, apparently. Anyway, that led to prominent roles in Lady Beware, one of those early Diane Lane star vehicles. Then School Days, The Mighty Quinn, Boys in the Hood, Jungle Fever, White Men Can't Jump, Equinox, and Poetic Justice.
I mean, she had a fucking run of iconic movies that she was in, and pretty good roles in those movies,
right?
Too.
I mean, very prominent in Boys in the Hood, very prominent in White Men Can't Jump. Obviously,
she's Wesley Snipes' wife in White Men Can't Jump. She's all over that shit, and those were big.
Oh yeah, I mean, I love White Men Can't Jump. I watch.
It's really fun. It's really fucking funny. I hope you watched that before you went on Jeopardy, Josh, because that's what I would have watched.
Quiche, quinoa. Anyway, then she had a recurring part in ER and was main cast in The Cape and The Corner.
Yeah.
In 2004, she was nominated for an NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Actress in a TV movie, miniseries, or dramatic special for her role in NTSB, The Crash of Flight 323. Pretty much right then, she took 10 years off from acting before returning to star in a short directed by Tasha Smith, she's an actress who was in Empire, amongst other things. More recently, she had a recurring role on Empire as Roxanne Ford and was in an episode of Chicago PD. She is married to civil rights activist and founder/CEO of PoliceAbuse.com, Diop Kamau. Next up, Lauren Ward, who's playing defense attorney Aaron Russ. She was born in Lincoln, Nebraska. She grew up in Kansas City, Missouri. She's the daughter of a geosciences professor at UMKC who died when she was 16. She graduated from Hickman Mills High School, then got her BFA from UNC School for the Arts, which is the school where David Gordon Green, Danny McBride, Jody Hill, Jeff Nichols, and so many others went. She did a ton of stage work, appearing on Broadway in the 1994 revival of Carousel and in 1776 as Martha Jefferson. In 1997, she originated the role of Violet Carl in the musical Violet, for which she received a Drama Desk Award nomination for Outstanding Actress in a Musical. While on the 2001 revival of Follies, she met her future husband, British stage director Matthew Warchus. She's also done quite a bit of stage work in London, highlighted by her 2019 performance in Dear Evan Hansen, which netted her an Olivier nomination.
Dear Evan Hansen keeps coming up, man. It's all over the place.
Well, watch the movie, Adam.
I shan't.
Nor shall I. Her only notable TV and film credits seem to be British. She was in an episode of Torchwood, and she was in 5 episodes of the 6-episode series Broken News, which is wholly unknown to me, but I suspect some UK listeners would know it, as it starred Claudia Christian, Sharon Horgan, and Indira Varma.
I gotta say, when I looked at her IMDb page, and basically the only thing I recognized besides Law and Order SVU was In and Out, in which she was a student. Yeah, I just turned it off.
Yeah, close the page. No, I looked into her just because her role was so prominent.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, she fucking murders Kevin Arnold.
Well, I mean, we love a good like last act lawyer lover plot twist. I mean, that's not. This is not the first time we've seen this device.
It's great. Hats off. Then we've got the next 4 is the string of brain melters. We've got Dana Eskelsen playing Karen Lighton. We talked about her back in Munch My Benson episode 42. Whenever I get touched in an unsafe way, I say yes, then I make a mess. Where we covered the second Connor Paolo episode, Web, which was season 7, episode 21. She was his mother.
Yeah, okay, awesome. Yeah. Nice.
Then we've got William H. Burns as Uniform Cop. We just talked about him in Pandora, which we covered 2 episodes, dropped 2 episodes ago. It's 5 episodes ago. When you're listening to this, in Munch My Benson, episode 83, we're burning through pedos.
I think we've seen William H. Burns more often than we've seen Cabot.
It sure feels like it. I think we've seen 6 episodes of William H. Burns at this point.
It's insane.
He's often playing a uni, which he's playing here, but this is a brain melter because he also played a parole officer in Witness, which obviously Cabot goes to the Congo in. Then we've got Ray DeMattis, who's playing Artie Kebzinski, who is he's the guy who runs the check cashing business.
Oh, yeah,
he previously appeared as Nestor in Witness. Which we talked about in Munch My Benson episode 46. It sucked that D-bag rape boy was going to be the last guy to lay pipe in McCallum County, which was season 11, episode 16. So the last 2 people were both in Witness. He's also in 4 episodes of the original series, 2 episodes of Criminal Intent, 1 episode of Conviction, the Cabot series. So he's all up in Cabot's business.
Nice.
He's also in episodes of Evil, The Good Fight, New Amsterdam, Everwood, and The Sopranos. Then we've got Krista Scott Reed, who's playing Noreen here. Right. We saw her all the way back in Munch My Benson episode 10. Staten Island Has Its Own Entire Language, where we talked about season 1, episode 20, Remorse, where she played the producer, I believe the producer, who comes in and tells Munch that the love of his life, Jennifer Esposito, has just been blown up. She's also in 1 episode of the original series. Then we've got Jennifer Riker. These at least are getting faster for now. The last one is a doozy. We've got Jennifer Riker, who's playing Renee Bassett. She was raised in Bucks County. Her family moved to Florida later in her youth. She got her BFA from Florida State, got her MFA from the Yale School of Drama. She's best known for her role as Dr. Helga Jace in Black Lightning. She's also in 2 episodes apiece of Lodge 49 in Nashville. Yeah. She's in 1 episode of the original series and 1 episode of Law & Order L.A., where she, I believe, plays a senator. Although I don't know that you can even watch Law & Order LA to be able to verify that.
I'm not sure if it's on anywhere. I don't think it's on Peacock.
Nope.
I'm glad that you didn't mention her role in Mad Men. I appreciate that.
Why would I? Then we've got Paul Rolfes.
Yeah, I don't know.
Rolfes.
Uh-huh.
He's playing Christian. This is his second credit. He's in one episode of the original series, one episode of Criminal Intent, then 2 episodes of Eastbound and Down, 16 episodes of Being Mary Jane as Aaron Felty. Being Mary Jane was a Gabrielle Union star vehicle.
Okay.
He's in 2 episodes of Lodge 49 and plays the mayor in 4 episodes and counting of Sweet Magnolias, a show I have no idea.
Never heard
existed.
of it. Yeah. There's so many shows these days, Josh. It's insane.
And you know what shows aren't going to be on my radar? Shows called Sweet Magnolias.
Now, if they remake Steel Magnolias, I'm all over that shit. But
Sure, totes. Now, the penultimate guest star that we've got is Scott Holroyd, who's playing Dean. He was born and raised in Columbia, South Carolina.
I'm really excited to know who your last guy is, but I'm sorry, Scott Holroyd. Yeah.
He got his BA in Mass Comm and Journalism from the University of South Carolina.
I've been to Columbia.
Moved to New York City to study at the New York Conservatory for Dramatic Arts. He played Paul Ryan for 2 years on As the World Turns, for which he was nominated for a Soap Opera Digest Award for Outstanding Younger Lead Actor. He's had recurring parts on Dirty Sexy Money, Chuck, and One Tree Hill, all shows that I've never seen a fucking second of.
Yep.
Lastly, I've got Lisa Landry, who's playing Ilka.
You went down a deep dive into her stand-up. Okay.
No, not even the stand-up.
Interesting. Okay, continue. Yeah.
Ilka, I believe, and I'm not positive about this, but I believe Ilka is the blonde at the poker table in the open.
I was trying to figure out even who the fuck she was.
I think because Lisa Landry's a blonde. I think that's who she is, but I'm not positive because I honestly, you can't really see her face at all.
That makes sense because they like several of those people do talk and they're barely on screen for a fraction of a second.
So she grew up in Harvey, Louisiana. She's a stand-up comic. She started in New York working at the Comedy Cellar, Comic Strip Live, and Gotham Comedy Clubs, eventually getting her own Comedy Central half-hour special. She had 2 Vegas residencies, one at the Stratosphere and the other at Planet Hollywood. Her last TV appearance was in 2012. She hosted her own podcast, A Menace to Society, that looks to have ended when the pandemic started. Now, what follows is all being alleged from someone who looks to be falling into some weird conspiracy theory-riddled rabbit holes, including about COVID and, mask mandates. This is all, gleaning stuff from her Twitter account. So while I don't know that we should discount what she's claiming here entirely, what follows should be accompanied by a grain of salt.
I'm waiting with bated breath, Josh.
Per her Twitter account, it looks as though she has accused, and I mean, press charges, against her one-time attorney and custodial supervisor, former Warwick, Rhode Island city councilman Richard Corley, of sexual assault, alleging that he assaulted her and trafficked her child while being protected by the Warwick PD, and seeing the state attorney general claim that they do not have jurisdiction to prosecute this. I don't know what to make of this, but I did find a news story around this time where Corley, in his black Subaru, crashed into the lobby of a Motel 6, half of the vehicle in the lobby, and his unconscious foot still on the gas.
What?
He said he was supposed to meet someone at the motel, but left when the other person didn't show and he was starting to feel sick. Police said there was no indication drugs or alcohol were involved in the crash, and nothing found at the scene indicated Corley was under the influence. Now, obviously, she has alleged that Warwick PD was protecting him. So if that were the case, then, sure, drugs and alcohol weren't involved in the crash. Who knows? Anyway, he claimed that he might have had a sudden drop in blood pressure, which made him feel faint and dizzy before he passed out at the wheel. Like a year later, he was primaried, and the local Democratic establishment appears to have backed his opponent, who won the primary. So it would appear that on the surface, maybe there were some sketchy things going on with this dude. I don't know. He also much of the reason why it sounds like the Democratic Party may have gone away from one is because he was against some fire department budget measure. I don't know.
Well, Rhode Island in
Warwick,
general
Rhode Island is
a very sketchy place.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know this, but it's very, very mob-tied.
Yes, extreme, like
Yes.
the most mob-tied
Yeah.
place in America.
Yeah.
I mean, at least as far as state level, and like Providence, Rhode
It's
Island,
wild.
it's
Warwick
insane.
is basic. I mean, Rhode Island is all one thing.
Rhode Island is
basically,
very
but Warwick
exactly.
is a Providence like suburb, basically.
Yeah, but there's a reason why, like, heavy metal bands are killing hundreds of people in Rhode Island and not other places.
Yeah, because codes aren't enforced.
Or they're enforced, but for some people.
Yeah.
I highly there's a podcast called Crime Town. I haven't listened to all the
Crime Town's
seasons,
great.
but the season about Providence is fucking outstanding, and highly recommend.
Yeah. And that's sort of par for the course for...
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I did spend some time sort of poring over Richard Corley's social media accounts.
Okay.
And on his Twitter account, he liked two tweets. One was a scantily clad, big-chested woman.
Buxom, if you will.
Buxom, yes. Buxom blonde wearing a shirt that was making a joke about Florida and flatness. And the other was a picture that no longer exists, but when you go look at that account is entirely naked women. So, only two tweets that he liked, were from this sketchy as fuck account that is just posting naked women. So
sounds like a stand-up guy.
yeah, and so then I went and I looked at his Instagram account, and there are a lot of it's low follower count, so he's not just following popular Insta thoughts, but
Okay. Does he have a type? He's a breast man, isn't he? Oh, young. Okay, great. Yeah.
Like they all look. I mean, there's a lot of gauzy filters, and anyway,
nice.
whatever. There's evidence to suggest that maybe he's sketchy. I mean, who the fuck is meeting someone at a Motel 6?
I mean, what are your options in Warwick, Rhode Island?
I've actually had to put up a producer in Warwick. There are a lot of options.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yes, lots of options.
Of course, you're like 30 minutes from downtown Boston at every single point in Rhode Island, so it's like there's options.
Yeah.
And the thing that upsets me about him, like laughing about a Florida like being flat joke, is Rhode Island is not known for its topography. I mean, it is like basically one
Just
bay
it's Providence
system.
plantations.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a weird rabbit hole that I went down.
That's fantastic. I was looking at Lisa Landry's page and I was like, there's more to this than I'm willing to get into, because I'd love to see what her stand-up's about. But so now it sounds like she's kind of on a classic like curmudgeon old comic ranting about things she doesn't understand kick.
But everybody else isn't, everybody else isn't doing the research, and they're all fucking, idiotic.
Yeah. I have some friends like that.
I believe she moved to Tulsa, if we're to believe where her Twitter account says she lives.
One of my dear friends
all around.
One of my dear friends likes to talk to me about Baphomet and lizard people and shit all the time. So I'm familiar with that line of rant.
All right, so the episode.
Yeah,
Jesus
the
Christ, we've been
episode.
recording for 50 minutes.
The thing is, I don't
have a ton of notes.
I don't have a ton of notes because we get to see, Savage freak out twice. I mean, when he punches Benson, of course, it's a real, like, what the fuck moment right before credits roll.
Maybe seemed unwarranted?
Yeah. Oh, my God. But, of course, I guess he's not used to being put into a position where the woman has control over him, right? And that's what we're seeing. Now, I want to know what kind of food are these guys ordering? I mean, it could have been Chinese food. That's like a classic Chinese food to-go setup where you got the paper bag inside the plastic bag, but not clear.
I would guess that, but...
And this is like in the pre-Uber
But
Eats
all
days.
basic bitch Chinese food, you know? Like
it's getting
just fucking Kung Pao chicken and...
But if you get Kung Pao chicken from a good-ass place, it's
No, but they're not... It's basically just that, wontons, some fucking egg rolls, and...
Yeah, they get the mushu pork, whatnot. A lot of egg rolls.
Maybe Gai Pan or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway. So it obviously, like, when the intercom goes off, it sure sounds like it's Finn.
Absolutely. It is clearly Finn.
Yeah.
But a nice ruse. Good on them for enticing him out of his dwelling.
And then when they're questioning him, I think the, like, touch of forehead sweat really works.
Yeah. It's a total recall note. You kind of know that he's bullshitting because of the sweat. Yeah. And I also liked... the way they kind of establish Aaron Russ. The first time you watch it, of course, you just think she's the attorney, but you do kind of notice the whole time that, I don't know, the camera lingers on her, or she's maybe...
Yeah, there's a choice therein where it's like, oh, okay, I know what's going on here. There's more to this person who's being focused upon quite a bit, who has had very little to do thus far.
Exactly. Yeah. And especially because we see these enough that we're used to seeing the attorneys kind of be there, but not be noticeable at all.
Sure.
That's what happens when Paul from The Wonder Years is an attorney. We barely notice that he's there.
So we've got a seriously hesitant victim in Carrie Hewitt. Usually the sort of character bores me, frankly, but this is a really good showcase for her.
Yeah, I thought she was very good, and I thought that it was a very good way to have... It's a very good way to present this kind of victim.
Absolutely.
Because you have... And this is like pre-Benson's, traumas, right? So she's in the unit because of her, her familial history, but she hasn't actually suffered. Yeah.
Her empathy affords her the ability to be able to, like, deal with these victims well, but...
Yeah, but still, like, it really, you can tell it hits home to Benson when she says, you don't understand. You haven't been... Well, maybe it's Karen says that. I know one of the victims says, you haven't been through what I've been through. And Benson's like,
Karen says that. Yeah, Dana Eskelson.
Yeah, Karen says that. She's like, yeah, I haven't, but I get it, right? And she doesn't tell him about her mother or anything like that. But still, it's a much more interesting way to present this kind of victim than we usually get.
Yeah.
And I think it's... I like the idea of the rape crisis counselor kind of privilege thing, which can be boring. It's
but it's not here. They find a way to actually make it matter, and for her principled stand that then SVU gets the patient or the client, I guess, to, like, willingly undermine despite her protestations. Like, I think this is all... I think it's an interesting way to deal with it. And it's a kind of nuanced discussion that, frankly, SVU doesn't
always do that. It's because it's difficult to do murky in an hour, right? In 43 minutes, it's really difficult to, like, be able to present something that is as complicated as this issue, frankly, is, where it's like, what is the benefit of taking this guy off the street versus, like, ruining the trust that all these other people that need to depend on this woman, like, that there is, like, a trade-off there, and it's not an easy decision to make, right? Like obviously we want that guy off the street, but even if that guy's off the street, it's not going to stop future rapers from raping.
Right.
And now this person who's clearly good at her job is not going to be there to help these people. So it's interesting. It's frankly really well done.
Yeah. I will say, since we're just talking about this, and we may as well just stay on the subject.
Yeah.
Feels too soon for 6 clients to be walking away. The instant that this, like, it's so fast.
It's really fast.
Like word of mouth amongst rape survivors who are seeing a rape crisis counselor probably isn't moving that fast.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean,
get the subpoena from the other rapist's defense attorney. That tracks because you would have your ear to the ground, as it were.
Yeah,
and you'd hear that, but I don't know. It seems like the chain reaction happens way too quickly, and I mean, sure, it's just for the.
They have to shorthand it because of the
it's
constraints.
to expedite it because it's a TV show.
Exactly.
And a procedural. But that little bit sort of strained credulity, if you will.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Going back to the poker game, it's a little weird what the guy says who's like chooses Texas Hold'em as the game. He says, this game's all about balls. Who's got them and who's a skirt? Which is like...
What a fucking misogynist.
I know. This fucking
no wonder
toolbag.
he hangs out with Kevin.
Yeah, I know.
By the way, I'm only going to call him Kevin the entire episode. I will never refer to him as his non-Kevin Arnold name.
I thought about only referring to him as Kevin Arnold in the recap, but I thought that might be confusing.
Yeah.
I want to know when Wayne's going to be on the show. That's what I'm really looking forward to.
There's no way Jason Hervey's not in an episode, but we'll hit it when we find it.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously the instant they decide to invoke the order of protection, it's going to go tits up.
Of course, yeah. I mean, because especially since they're saying that means he's going to have your address because he needs to know exactly where he has to avoid, and it's like, well, yeah, of course, and he's a as Wong calls him, he is a power reassurance rapist, which is a noted thing. I'm looking at something called the Sexual Assault Response Team Toolkit,
Glad you looked it up.
Yeah, which has patterns for sex offending.
I had to race through notes on this, so I didn't get to do as many dives as I would have normally because I fell down that goddamn rabbit hole with Lisa Landry.
I love it. But there's a few different types of rapists. There's sadistic or ritualistic rapists. There's anger rapists, and there's 2 different kinds of power rapists. You have power assertive rapists who attack in impulsive, spontaneous, and unplanned manners. They're self-centered and controlling in the workplace. They take pride in their appearance. They're abusive. And they typically take victims that are older than them. Now you also have, and then you have what Kevin Arnold is, which is the power reassurance rapist. They assault to compensate for their lack of confidence or social skills, which Wong mentions, that it's a confidence thing. They have low self-esteem, are not athletic, which we know from watching The Wonder Years. He's not particularly athletic. Have little social contact and are underachievers. I mean, we don't really know about that, but they...
Do you think it has to do with him being a Jets fan?
It's possible, yeah.
It would make sense. All that suffering would
yeah. And they... Wait, they commit their crimes close to where they live or work or where they feel most comfortable. And they might even consider their rapes consensual encounters. Yeah.
There are going to be a lot of people who don't understand half of what we're talking in this episode because they've never seen The Wonder Years.
I mean, it's the thing about The Wonder Years is I don't know if it has like rewatchability because you really have to kind of live in that moment of like late 80s, 60s nostalgia.
Yeah.
Which I don't think translates out of that.
No.
It's a very kind of particular world.
It's just boomer navel gazing.
Yeah, but we've been so inundated with that time and time again. And now it's like there's an annual tradition that there's a new Beatles product every Christmas season. And it's like...
This year it's that dumb...
It's the dumb Peter Jackson documentary.
Yeah, and Glenn Howerton did an interview this week and he just shat on the Beatles. It was amazing. I was like, oh, this guy, I get this guy. He's like, why does everyone talk about them?
Because, I mean,
sure, they're fine, but he has the same irrational hatred for the Beatles that I do. But it was nice to see someone expressing it publicly.
I have a very particular rational hatred for the Beatles, and that is that the fucking boomers that have ruined the world and given us so many terrible things have been trained like fucking dogs in Pavlov's laboratory to lap at every single Beatles release. It happens every fucking Christmas time,
year.
Josh. Every year
there's some new thing that they need to jerk off.
Late November, there's a new Beatles album. Like, why is that? Because you people are going to spend $1 billion on it.
Oh, why is there a new Ron Howard documentary about them at some dumb fucking time? It's ceaseless.
You know, what's ironic about this, of course, is that like a little help from my friends will almost certainly be going in this episode.
But you know what won't? The Beatles version, because fuck them. Oh, man, we just lost so many listeners.
My mother-in-law will actually murder me if she listens to this. This is great.
They're just so overrated.
I read a great, I forget who it was, but it was somebody from, I guess, a musician in the 60s who said something like, they're the worst musicians I've ever seen in my life. Which is great.
That's fantastic. Anyway, so I don't know why Benson thinks that Carrie walking into the coffee shop that he was already in would be in violation of the order of protection.
Well, because she didn't
know when she got there, but the instant she got there and it was established that he was already in the shop, she should have known right away. Like, she is a cop. Like, she knows how laws work.
But she doesn't, Josh, because she believes victims. So...
But the order of protection is pretty cut and dry. Like, you can't walk into a place and the person who you have the OOP against is there and it's their fault. Like, that's not the way that works.
Yeah, and it's not like she walked into her own home.
One-on-one shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, in her home, sure. But like, if she can tell she's being followed, sure. But you can't do that if you go into a place that someone's already at.
No, I mean he's got a very advanced like front and follow routine if he's able to get there before.
Yeah, he could follow Stringer Bell in the market.
He's got McNulty's kids keeping lookout for him.
Okay, so I do think that Wong's little profile sums him up really effectively for the viewer, because it's like a tidy piece of characterization, and we don't need to spend screen time defining him then.
No, there was very good exposition in this, like throughout. They kind of they were able to kind of shorthand a lot of these things that a lot of times we see them take a lot more screen time.
Yeah,
describing.
way too much time to unpack it, and then you don't get, because I think this episode overall does like a really good job of sort of surfacing character in interesting ways. Yeah. And like most of the drama's character based, not just like plot driven.
Exactly.
And so you're sort of seeing the case differently than it's often presented to us. In a way that like actually like works and is more nuanced than the show usually is.
Well, yeah, and there's more at stake in the end because we've been given these kind of a variety of options for how things could turn out, and we don't know, we don't know what's going to happen with Carrie, we don't know what's going to happen with Bethany Taylor, we don't know what's going to happen with fucking Kevin Arnold, and it there's usually it's kind of like a fairly cut and dry. SVU wins or SVU loses, and that's not really. There's a lot more options than that in this one, which is nice. I mean, now it does the plot does kind of grind a little bit when it gets to the courtroom, as it often does.
But considering we're there as early as we are,
it
still manages to surprise.
Absolutely, and Kevin Arnold has a great outburst in it, like just fantastic freak out.
So it's kind of weird that we're dealing with the darkest timelines, Kevin Arnold. No,
but I love that he still sounds exactly like he did in Wonder Years.
yeah. This is late season Kevin Arnold. Not early season. He's still got the baby fat.
Yeah, he's got a deeper voice a little bit, but he's known heartbreak at this point.
Oh yeah. Winnie.
When he was making out with that lifeguard.
At that camp or whatever.
Yeah.
So when they go to Karen's, she's really displeased that they can't do shit to protect her. But then they luck out and he's walking his dog in front of her place. or theoretically luck out. They arrest him, and the shit doesn't stick. Because even though he's defending himself, he instantly hands Cabot's ass to her.
This is a trope that I find kind of annoying, though, is the self-defense.
I would almost always say that.
Yeah.
But I think he's getting a lot of help that we don't see from his girlfriend.
Well, he's getting help from his girlfriend, but he's also getting off on having power over...
Oh, yeah, no, that's absolutely what... it's serving two purposes for him,
yeah.
But he's getting... she's absolutely, telling him... they're going over this beforehand.
Sure. But then if you think about it, everybody in the trial... Judge Cohen is basically the only man who's involved in the court proceedings at all, and he's not
that's
in
just
the trial.
On the lesser charge.
Yeah,
because
it's
regarding the order of protection violation, not the...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but everybody else, Judge Preston,
Yep.
Bethany Taylor, Benson, Cabot, Aaron Russ, his girlfriend.
Yeah, and so he's getting off on showing up all of these women.
Some people like cutting off left legs. Some people like blowing up people's spot in court.
His motion to sever the other 3 rape counts as cagey. Of course, we also later find out that he's been banging his defense attorney for months.
Yeah.
So I think it's safe to assume she's feeding him this shit. I do think we're kind of getting empathetic Benson at her best in this episode.
Yeah, it's not so overbearing as it is in later seasons. And also, it's not that she's infallible either, right? Because she kind of is, she's trying to empathize with these victims, but she's kind of also fucking up the case and the victims' lives in the process of doing this in certain ways.
One of those things where it's I don't know that she's really fucking up the case, but it's not going well. Every break that can happen is breaking against her.
Sure.
And so it's I think that's more interesting where you're just sort of, this is sort of spoken to when Stabler and Benson are having that talk on his stoop, which is I honestly maybe the best scene between just Maloney and Hargitay that we've seen yet.
Kathy took the kids to La Boheme. Pass.
So on your one night as a bachelor, you go to the grocery store? That's pretty pathetic.
Grocery store with strippers. Liv, you gotta let it go. You put a rapist on trial. You did your job.
I think I made it worse.
You know that's not true.
I made Carrie relive the worst thing that's ever happened to her. I screwed any number of victims who might have sought counseling from Bethany Taylor, and a few less rapes may be reported because of it.
If Michael Gardner is convicted, he'll never rape another woman.
It's not worth it. It's not worth the cost.
To you or them?
I'm not talking about me.
Yeah, you are. For as long as I have known you, you've always identified with the victims. Now, maybe that's because you're a woman. I don't know. I do know it's one of the things that makes you a great cop. It's also one of the things that makes this job torture sometimes. You can never go back and change things that have already happened, Olivia. You can't.
You kill yourself to make something happen, or you do nothing, and it doesn't matter. There's always another child molester. There's always another rapist. And it's you have to sell a little piece of yourself to get the job done. So what the hell's the point?
I don't know. Maybe there isn't a point. Maybe the cost is too high. Olivia, no one's making you do this. The difference between you and all the victims is you can walk away.
No, I can't.
It was a really nice scene. Yeah,
it's a really
nice
good scene. She's wrestling with this sort of existential struggle, inherent to the job.
Yeah.
And trying to beat away the more nihilistic outlook that she, in this sort of mood that she's in, that she would be sort of beset with. Because obviously there is an element of okay, you're never going to really win. There are always more victims and more perps. And then, he's starts the whole thing off by saying that she's it's her empathy is what makes her so good at this.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's just this really just nice scene where she's kind of losing it, because it's just this is everything's going wrong. And every time she tries to help someone in this case, it goes
tits up. She's, despite her best efforts, she's not she's not helping the victim. She's kind of re-victimizing the victim, even though that's not what she's trying to do.
No. And I mean, having to have her scenes one-on-one with Carrie are also really good.
Yeah.
The scene where she's talking about what Carrie's been saying to Bethany Taylor.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up that Stabler scene, because I love every piece of work that Maloney gets to do in this episode. He's not in it very much at all, but he had like a very interesting work week that week. He basically pointed a gun at Kevin Arnold. He picks up a puppy, and there's like 1 or 2 scenes in the office. And then he stops by the grocery store on the way home from the strip club, and then gets to talk to Liv for a minute. That's all he does.
Yeah, but, he also like sort of poo-poos the idea of even deigning to see La Boheme.
Yeah, I know, exactly. But the thing with the puppy scene is really funny because, of course, like Kevin Arnold's putting steel. But we're like, wait a second, there's that adorable little puppy. And Stabler like stops, looks at the dog, and then picks it up.
God damn it. I guess I'm going to have to go run this back to his house.
Oh, yeah, it was great.
I mean, that's what he's doing. The whole episode, he's obviously just taking care of the dog, right?
I mean, he's everybody's gopher, but he had a really fun work week that week. I bet he enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And then, of course, after his spot is blown up in court, when Bethany does agree to testify to the judge in closed chambers, and he freaks out, he splits, and
she's already gone in at this point. Bethany has, and then the judge says, you don't have none of what she said had anything to do with
he has that great freak out.
After questioning Bethany Taylor, it is my ruling that her testimony is not relevant to the pretrial identification and that the defendant's right to due process has not been violated. Therefore, the testimony will not be entered into record.
Objection!
You can't object, Mr. Gardner. Take a seat.
No, that's not fair.
That is my ruling. We're adjourned for today.
And then he's gone the next day, and they don't know where he is. And
the instant she says, that they're adjourning immediately, you're like, oh, well, someone else is going down.
Yeah.
It seems pretty obvious that, like, with that blow up, he's going to have to, reclaim his manhood.
But it was another good Aaron Russ scene, because you could tell she had it was more than just my client,
The scene on the courthouse steps when they're.
No, the one in where the judge is like, where the hell is this guy? Your client's absconded. Yeah. And she's kind of like, I don't know where he is. What is he doing? In more than
even though I just drove him to the check cashing place so he could cash out a $5,000 check from his wife's account.
Even though I've let him use my Lexus every time one of these women has been raped.
So Kevin strikes again, only he leaves his bite marks in his victim despite slicing her skin off down to the fascia.
Yeah.
And then the white Lexus SUV shows up in the video from the check cashing place. And my immediate question, moving past the obvious, the technology doesn't exist to do what Morales made it do. But the immediate question is, how did they not make Aaron Russ's haircut right away?
I know, immediately. It's like they blew up a single pixel into Aaron Russell's. It's like, oh, that's
no,
a very
she's got that hair flip. It's her. No one else we've seen in this episode has had that. I don't know why it took them any amount of time. You don't need to. You should be. Oh, does Aaron Russ own a white Lexus? Because you can't make her face out, but that hair. Come on.
Yeah, distinctive. It was painfully obvious it was her from that.
All you need to do is see the hair. That's literally the only thing that's needed. So, of course, they go there, and she's fucking offed him, and has no concern about concocting a story of self-defense.
Well, Benson's like, it was self-defense, right? And she was
she's like,
yeah, it was self-defense.
No, she doesn't even do that.
She doesn't even do that.
It's like so much less.
She says, if it were self-defense.
If it were self-defense. Yeah. She's not concerned with that. Anyway, Kevin Arnold's murdered.
Yeah.
It's such an ignominious fall from grace. We grew up with you, Kevin.
We sure did. Yeah. We got by with a little help from him. And now he has a knife in his back. And he's dead on the floor.
For shame, Kevin. For shame. Then we see him on a slab.
Carrie mentioned him being clean-shaven when she's describing the attack. And when we see him on the slab, Fred Savage has a beard. He's got a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow. He's got a 5 o'clock shadow before noon.
Well, I'm sure he hasn't shaved since before he raped and murdered his fifth victim.
It's possible, but still, he's got a heavy beard. I don't know if you'd ever. I guess he's.
Oh no,
shaven.
You didn't know this about Kevin Arnold, but his facial hair after he dies actually grows really fast.
But Josh, can we rank this episode?
Yes.
I think we've been doing this for a minute.
No, I'm out of notes.
Yeah, and I think we have good things to say about it. I have one little Munch line that we didn't mention. It's a nod to the Wonder Years because he says Mr. Wonderful is now a free man as of 2 hours ago.
Nice.
So a little reference, I think.
Yeah.
So of course we rank these episodes. We rank them every week. We have a 4 criteria 10-point scale. Which we use to come up with a composite score so we can rank them against all the other episodes of this television show that we will eventually have watched. And we rank on quality, the guess, how problematic it was, and the depth and breadth of lives ruined over the course of the episode. Now, this one definitely ticks a couple boxes. And I guess let's just start there, and we'll get to the more maybe difficult ones to rank later. But quality, it's a really good episode, right?
Watching it, I was thinking it might be the best episode we've watched.
It's really good. Where was the Stephen Ray episode? That was the best probably performance we've ever seen.
Yeah.
But we gave 10 to Trade. This was not as fun as Trade, right?
I think Trade is insane.
Trade is nuts, and so it's a different kind of fun, and it's not as fun as the Andrew McCarthy episode, Slaves.
But it's much better than Slaves. Slaves isn't actually, quality-wise, isn't that...
No, it's not.
It's crazy, and it's doing the thing we want SVU to do, but this is doing the thing we want SVU to do, which is, defile our youth.
It sure is. Yeah, it really is.
It's definitely doing that. And I would argue that Fred Savage playing this character is even more harmful to the things that we grew up with than Andrew McCarthy was.
Well, and the funny thing about this, right, is that his character works because he's playing the nice guy to everybody that knows him.
He's playing Kevin Arnold.
I know.
This is the darkest timeline's Kevin Arnold because he is a fucking sociopath in this. But he's that charming sociopath, and it's this is Kevin still. It really just still feels like Kevin. It's kind of fucking nuts.
It's a really quality episode of television,
and it's also dealing with
difficult
issues in a nuanced way. It's got the great scene between Elliot and Olivia.
Yeah. I think we both really like this show, obviously, or else we wouldn't devote this much time to it. But at the same time, we can recognize that it doesn't often deal in nuance very well.
No, and it does here, and it's kind of shocking, honestly.
It's hard to do that in 43 minutes a lot of times. But this time it really does. It does a very good job. And
they did such a good job of doing the exposition in ways that were either interesting or still serviced character did it really efficaciously. It's really jarring to see an episode of SVU that's done this well and told in a way that's still interesting. They're in court very early.
They're in court early, but it doesn't
matter.
affect it because they're using the court to suss out these issues that need to be dealt with there.
And they're sitting with a victim who's still very who's still in a very raw place. Mm-hmm. And she says she expresses to Liv that she doesn't know that she wants to still be alive and she'd be better off if he just fucking killed her.
I know. God, brutal
and
when she says that.
It's dealing with this shit in such a fucking interesting way that we're 8 episodes into this podcast. We've seen 88 of these and talked about them. I think this is probably the best episode we've seen, just from a pure professional storytelling in a different, interesting way.
Well, and just they made the right choices, right? They made the right casting choices with all the guests, really. I mean, Tyra Farrell is great in her role, and Mindy Christ, that's who I'm looking for. Mindy Christ was fantastic in that role, and that was not... We see that character a fair amount the kind of
and it's rarely done this well.
It's definitely, it's almost never done in the kind of weepy victim. It's really easy to take that into like a caricature, and I don't think that she does.
Yeah, where it just becomes maudlin, you know, and
exactly.
It's not that here. It's
no, not at all. No.
Yeah, I think this is a 10.
It's a 10 for both, right? For quality and for guess.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think we're kind of tying those two together because,
but they're married to each other in this.
They are.
Really, it's it's not just the Kevin Arnold stunt casting.
No, it's really not.
It really is like.
No, Mindy Krista's great.
The top three guests are fucking fantastic in this.
Yeah, and their characters are all interesting. Like they were well written and well acted. And Liv's role is interesting in it. You know, it's not one dimensional role in it.
Oh no, absolutely not.
And even going down the list, like both judges have really we see these judges a lot, but I thought both of them sometimes the judge is just there saying some, saying some kind of like rote stuff. But both Cohen and Preston actually had something to do, and it was a lot of fun for both of them. And
and like Dana Eskelsen doesn't have, she's only really in 2 scenes, but she's really good as Karen Lighton. You know, and Lauren Ward's good as a defense attorney.
Yeah,
like it's rare to see the guest stars with as much to do in an episode that's still sort of like very centrally concerned with one of them.
With Benson's backstory and her like reason for being a cop. It's very centrally tied to that.
But like this is the most deft balancing between all of these different elements that I can really recall.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't think there's any question there. Now the next one is kind of I think where So the way we describe problematic, I don't know if this episode really ticks that box. It doesn't tick it in the way that we sometimes like, right? It's not like Strange Beauty where we have a guy reveling in who's telling Rollins that he needs to cut off her leg to make her whole.
Yeah,
we don't have that.
No, to make her hot, to make her interesting, because she's boring.
We don't have that, obviously. It's not that kind of episode. But it is problematic in the way that it makes us think about
Kevin Arnold.
Well, Kevin Arnold.
About the way that it fucking like completely. I mean, every time he rapes, he's raping our youth.
Fantastic, Josh. Fantastic.
That was just off the cuff there. At least I gave us an episode title.
Yeah. But also, Josh, it's problematic in that it is really thoughtfully dealing with these issues where there's no easy answer, right?
What is Bethany supposed to do here?
What is Bethany supposed to do? What is more important?
What's Benson supposed to do?
Is solving this case or opening Carrie's trauma? Like where's the balancing act
opening
there?
Pandora's box with regards to having rape trauma counselors have to potentially fucking
talk to judges all the time.
Yeah,
or
to give
worse.
up privilege. Yeah. So like it's dealing with issues that are like fundamentally problematic.
Yeah.
And in an interesting way, but it's not talking about stump fetishizing or having 16-year-olds become porn stars and AIDSing half of Queens or whatever.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not a 10 in problematic.
No, it's probably like a 5.
Yeah, I think that's about right. I think that's right because it's more thoughtful than problematic, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And okay, Kevin Arnold's raping our childhoods, but okay, so Death and Breath of Lives Ruined. It's another one where it's not. I don't think it's a 10.
No. There are 5 victims.
One body.
One's dead.
Yeah.
4 victims who we meet. One who we deal with a lot. I think the victims are all going through a lot, and we really have to sit in the sort of like post-rape malaise that she's in, where, I mean, again, she says very frankly, I would have been better off if you'd fucking killed me.
Yeah, which is it's pretty brutal. I mean, we are definitely there, so that's why it's depth and breadth, right? It's not just about the numbers game. It's about like stewing, if the episode really makes us feel the pain that this character's in,
and I really think it does here.
Like the soft kid in Juvenile, right?
Yep.
Like that was so brutal, the ending of that, and this definitely does.
Even when she sees him on the slab, she doesn't even crack a smile. She's still fucking her rapist is fucking dead, and it doesn't even register a change of expression on her face,
because it's not like she's getting back what he took away from her, right? Like she's not gonna have,
her fiance's gone.
Yeah, and
she says that she had to basically call things off with her fiance because she couldn't have sex without fucking crying.
Yeah.
And she wasn't going to be able to, maybe ever.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I mean, then we're also dealing with the Benson shit. I mean, Benson on the stoop with Elliot, she's in a fucking dark place here too. Bethany's, Bethany, who was trying to do right by her client,
and does everything. She does everything she can to protect her client until she's basically forced to.
And so then all of her clients who are leaving in droves for reasons that were beyond Bethany's control or beyond her. Like, she did not want to fucking say a goddamn word to the judge, and she knew why she didn't want to. She was right to not want to, because instantly the fucking floodgates open.
Yeah, and the first one that opens is another fucking scumbag who's going to force her to testify in trial. So that's something.
So I mean, I don't think we're dealing with a 10 here, but I think we're probably dealing with...
It's like a 7 or an 8.
An 8, because we're dealing... It's again, handled so deftly, and they make you feel... they make you really feel for the victim in a way that they don't always succeed in doing.
Absolutely. It came out with an 8.25, which definitely puts it in the upper echelon. In fact, it is tied with one we were just talking about, that Strange Beauty. She has ears that lend themselves to elfing. Also tied with Rhodium Nights, which was the first part of the 3-part Kragan saga, where he wakes up next to a dead Pippa Black in his bed. That one was called It's a Bad Way to Wake Up If You're a Recovering Alcoholic. So it slots it just underneath Slaves, which I guess Slaves also had 2 10s, and it's just... So
its
like
10 wasn't problematic, of course.
Yeah, oh yeah, big time. The problem with this one, so to speak, was that it just... Like, the problematic stuff is not... It's not that kind of gleeful, over-the-top problematic of the... Every other episode that's up in this range is very high across the board, and this one is low in one category, and it's that problematic score. So obviously the best one we've ever watched as far as a rank system goes is Hooked. That's the Hayden Panettiere AIDS epidemic episode.
I just don't know how we're ever going to get... And the guest stars weren't even... whatever. It doesn't matter.
I mean, it doesn't matter. We'll get there if we get there. There's 1 or 2 that might get there, but...
Yeah,
but this
I
one
can think of one that I feel like's gonna get there. The Dylan McKay Rapist episode is,
I think you're under. I don't think you've seen the Mark Paul Gosselaar one in a while.
Oh, that one's another. That's a short list. That's a short list of I feel like that one could really.
That one's got legs. Because as I recall, it's a good one, and it's pretty fucking bonkers. But it's going to require that, because you can't just have a very good episode get to the top of our rank anymore.
Nope.
Because at the top and at the bottom, there's just little wiggle room. You have to. You have to really be firing.
You either have to really shit the bed, or you have to really fucking knock it out of the park while being completely insane.
Yeah, you have to make an episode feature Dean Winters in season 19 to really get to the bottom of things. And you're going to have to bring in some heavy hitters in the other end. So I think we can roll the next episode, Josh. This is a fun one. Highly recommend this one. This is one, especially if you're Josh and my age, or we're
if you're at least, let's say, 35 or so, you probably have a relationship with Fred Savage.
Yeah. If you know what the Power Glove is, or you were awake in 1987, then you have some kind of Fred Savage is more than just a guy from the past. He's
more
he's
than
a
just
part of
the
your
kid
life.
who's getting the Princess Bride read to him.
Yeah. But
Which
even then,
I mean, I think that Princess Bride is probably one of the most watched movies, like just across generations, because
it has a very
almost
wide appeal.
everybody under 50 has seen it.
Yeah, it seems that way. It has a very broad appeal. It's funny. Yeah. It's not. It doesn't seem dated, et cetera, et cetera. It really works. But okay, let's roll the next one. We got Bill and Ted. They got to get into the phone booth.
So I'm going over to episode.lol, which was built for this podcast by friend of the pod, Flet.
Yeah, thanks, Flet.
Bill and Ted are hurtling through space-time. The tape is spinning. And we've drawn Beast's Obsession.
Interesting.
Season 15, episode 20. Benson is assigned to a 24/7 detail when William Lewis escapes from prison and starts killing again. Benson must decide how much he is willing to sacrifice to save a child's life.
Uh-oh.
So, let's see when this one is, because we may have to... I'm pretty sure this is going to be a two-parter.
I mean, I feel like we've seen a lot of the William Lewis Aftermath episodes without actually having seen the William Lewis episodes.
So, this is the first of... 2, maybe 3 parts. So we will just watch this episode. We're about to get balls deep in William Lewis. So
it's funny because we still haven't watched the ones that actually introduce him. So
nope.
Awesome.
All right.
Good time. So guys, please rate and review us everywhere you can. Do that.
Make sure to, we're charting pretty high at Good Pods. We'll periodically be top 50, but if you go over there and rate and review the episodes, we will shoot up those charts because there are still not a ton of users there, so you can actually affect our rankings pretty well.
Nice.
But it's rare that we're not top 5 in TV reviews there, and we're routinely top overall. Like number 1.
Nice. That's exciting.
Yeah, and in all TV and film, there's a lot of time where we're, certainly top 10, sometimes top 5. So
nice.
Anyway. Yeah.
But if you want to keep using Apple, that's fine too. And you can
just make sure to rate and review us there, which is a pain in the ass to figure out. You have to go to the podcast episode page, scroll down to the bottom, find where the reviews are, open the reviews, and then write one of your own. It's not as easy as it should be because, why make things easy?
No, it doesn't help that much.
Go over to Podchaser too. It all helps. Tweet about the show.
Yeah.
Post on Facebook about the show. Follow us on all the socials. We're Munch My Benson on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Tell your parents over the holidays.
Yeah, tell your parents. They surely want to hear us talk about how Kevin Arnold is raping our youth with every rape that he commits. God, so when I'm sure, maybe I said this before in the podcast, I can't remember, but my mom reached out after she listened to our episode of Fuck My Work Life Pod, FMWL.
Yeah.
And she loved our episode of that, and then made sure to say something to the effect of our podcast is maybe, she didn't say ribald, but that was the implication.
It's ribald. Yeah.
And I was like, well, Mom, I don't know that you're the target audience for it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So anyway, but she loved our episode of FMWL, so go over there and listen to
That's
it.
Nice.
We had a lot of fun. I hope to go back on there.
Yeah,
I'm sure it will happen. They just wrapped their second season, so I don't know.
Yeah, they have a really fun podcast. It was fun being on there.
Oh yeah,
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and it's not just ours. Like, you should listen to the others as well.
Yeah.
It's they read people's work horror stories, and
the thing is, as much as I want everybody to listen to our podcast, I understand that we have kind of a niche that we are sitting in. That is
like when I was
narrow.
talking about how we'd hit our 25,000th play.
Yeah.
On Twitter, I said, I can't believe this extremely niche thing that we do has reached 25,000 plays, because it is extremely niche. And
It
I mean,
is, yeah.
again, today, what did we talk about? We talked about like some random stand-up comedian and her like lawyer possibly raping her.
I spent an hour today looking at Volvo models, Josh.
Jesus Christ. I mean, I was looking into a Warwick, Rhode Island city councilman and going on his Instagram and Twitter to see what he was liking and who he was following.
Yeah. So
it's really weird to see an old person who does not know how the internet works and just like, oh, you have 2 likes and they're both from
awesome.
a really sketchy account. Okay.
That's the way it should be. That's how old people should interact with the internet. But okay. So anyways, guys, please, just keep on munching out there. I think it's time to say goodnight.
Yes.
It's very late here.
Good night, John Boy.
The next day, Winnie and I came home, back to where we'd started. It was the 4th of July in that little suburban town. Somehow, though, things were different. Our past was here, but our future was somewhere else. And we both knew, sooner or later, we had to go.